I'm going to do the intro here shortly. So as you guys are checking in, let me know how everyone's going. Let me know if you caught our first live stream of the day. The first live stream of the day was just basically recapping what happened last night in Sydney between Gallon and Sunny Bill, recapping our wins. We hit a parlay, our first parlay of the week, got about plus 500 odds. So we're off to a good start again. We do really well in Sydney. On the channel, I just uploaded my breakdown analysis and prediction of Bam versus Cafu. If you're new to the channel and you've been watching my live streams, go to my playlist section, find fight predictions. You'll see all the edited, uninterrupted fight prediction videos. I break it down, film study, give you my prediction. What else? We have a lot to talk about. Also, guys, Boxing Insiders. Now, the channel has been offering, last week we launched Johnny Says Boxing Insiders. It's a couple bucks a month. I've now gotten into our system moving forward with the free content, the content, the bonuses for you guys who pay for that service. So if you go on my channel, if you're unaware where that section is, go to post section and you'll see posts specifically that aren't public, only for you boys. And so far this week, I gave you the first parlay was the Australia parlay. We hit value. Let's do it, right? And then the second one I posted a few hours ago. That is my money line long parlay. It's a 7-legger. You guys, some of you commented and said that you don't have Usyk on there. That's a different ticket, guys. So that ticket's separate. This 7-legger is specifically my long parlay for the boys, the insiders. I think it's about 2-1. Good value. I went heavy on that one. I already have my bets in for that one. And just now, I put in the Boxing Insider group my method of victory locks of the week. And my bets are in for that. That is paying 5-1 as well. So we could go over the locks of the week separately. We could talk about it in the group. But this is a way that I could add value for the paid subscribers. So moving forward, I'm going to do my check-ins. What's up, Dwayne Styles? What's up, Skeezy? Work out and count your cows. You'll trim up easy. What did I miss? I'm going to start having my phone in front of me directly instead of my recliner. What did I miss? You boys are on it. Hit the like button. I missed a bunch of fitness stuff, which is my wheelhouse. Dwayne in the house. I just got done doing I'm currently doing a pyramid strength program, a 6-week block. Basically, I came out of my 1-rep max program. So a couple of my online clients, a couple of the big boys in Sydney who see me in my one-on-one training studio, and some of my online clients throughout the year, we do 2 times a year a 1-rep max block. Basically, we take our 1-rep max on our back squat, our Zercher squat, our sumo dead, our regular dead, our trap bar, and our bench. We have our 1-rep max. We get that throughout the year, and then twice a year, we do about a 5 to 6 week block where we're trying to break records. Coming out of that strength block, now we're going into a pyramid phase. This is week 2 of a 10-8-6-4-2. So just like you have a 1-rep max, my 1-rep max on my trap bar deadlift is 215.5 kgs. I weigh 78 kgs. So as a strength coach, I think that's pretty good. I take my 1-rep max, 214.5, and then my 10-rep range on that same deadlift. So I do 102.5 for 10 reps on my trap bar, and then you decline 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. You increase resistance and decrease repetitions. This is an example of periodization from a strength and conditioning perspective. This is what I just got done doing. It took me about 42 minutes to do my deadlift session. So welcome, boys. Yeah, start off with some fitness stuff. I didn't even engage that one. You guys started it, but yeah, fitness is my wheelhouse, just like boxing. They both keep the lights on. All right, so let's get into this. Cafu versus Bam. I did the film study. I watched the tape. You can watch the breakdown. I don't think the fight's gonna be close. What's up, PJ? Edmondson will beat the big stiff Lappin. I don't think Edmondson. Okay, let's see where we could dive in. Fierro decision 600, my long shot of the week. I like it. Garcia's Phumelele game plan. I like Garcia fighters. Parlay no distance on Usyk, Dubois, Oakley. Julius, if you guys want me to post these or share these, either email me, send them to me on Instagram, or comment those in a post. You got a knockout for Bam. What's up, Dwayne? Did you look in the, like, if you go to the group, right now I have Bam. The money I'm playing with Bam right now is one of my money line parlays, but also, yeah, I'm waiting, Dwayne. My book isn't letting me take a knockdown prop, but if you guys are out there and your book is allowing you to play an over 0.5 knockdown, so all you need is one knockdown, I would take it. Yeah, I think Bam is a level above Cafu. I like Skeezy. I'm thinking Bam 8-2 of Cafu is getting back. Okay, I think Lappin is going to cruise to a victory. To be honest with you, am I posting UFC? I will. So as I spoke about earlier today, I'm going to simmer this one initially for boxing, and then we're going to talk about the UFC because we have a UFC card as well. And 2 weeks in a row, we've hit on the UFC with my parlays. I've give you those for no charge if you guys are MMA bettors. And there's some locks I really like. I have like a 4-leg parlay on the UFC working. It's only about 5-1 method of victories. For instance, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, to finish my point, Dwayne, if you could find a prop bet on Bam versus Cafu, a knockdown prop, I love it. I think somebody, and I think a lot of content creators online are overthinking the Bam versus Cafu matchup. I think the 11-1 odds are pretty good, and I think Bam is a level above Cafu. I don't think he's going to go in there overlooking him and looking past him to Puma. I think it's going to be good. When will you post your? I already did, Joseph. Joseph Peters, you want to get those locks? So Joseph Peters, if you go to the comment section, you'll see how to join the group. I posted the locks in the group. The live streams will answer your questions. We'll do a lot of rifting with the matchups. But if you want to see the locks, they're already posted. I think Bam and Cafu over 5. I like that. Looking forward to see what Goat is going to post. Yeah. We'll see if Goat taps in. He's always tapping in. Boys, wherever you are, could you like this video? 7 minutes in. We're already heating up. 35 of you are here. Let's get the likes up. Hit subscribe. Join our insider group as well. Like, I think so. Joseph Peters, there you go, brother. That was simple, right? So now, Joseph, go on my channel and go under post section, and you'll have access. And if not, I'll tag you in it. Wait, Johnny, dumb question. If you bet on a knockdown, would it also count as a knockout? Okay, not a dumb question, Dwayne. Great question. If a guy gets knocked out and stopped, that counts as a knockdown. What up, Johnny? Best channel in boxing. You know I already liked. Yeah, Carlos Vargas. That's my man. Carlos Vargas is a great representation of my initial goal when I was wanting to start my channel was create a space for like-minded boxing heads to chat boxing, but not always agree on things. Carlos and I disagree on matchups all the time, but it's always we keep things copacetic and keep things positive. That's any educated conversation. There's Goat. Goat, Goat, give us your locks. Barrios said in the press his favorite Manny moment was him getting starched. Yeah. Barrios was talking wild today. I got to admit, Barrios was saying that he's putting to bed all that I'm going to carry him talk. Schofield won you 45K. Let's go. Kid Austin out here, boy. That makes me happy, Carlos, even though I lost. That makes me so happy. 45K is nice. Excellent. So, yeah. Barrios is talking wild right now. He's talking about he's not carrying this guy. He's talking about he's going to stop him. Very good. I'm glad we disagreed on that for your sake. So, I'm still personally at this stage of the game not betting on Barrios and Pacquiao, but like I said, as I'm inching closer, I might put something on it. We'll see. I'm not going to wait later. I'm not sure about my locks. All right, Goat. Goat, patience, right? We respect you because Goat's always a patient guy, though. You know, you've been known to give your picks. You don't rush to judgment. You like hearing things out. You like hearing people's opinions, and then you make your own decision. Very much respect. 46. Yeah, Julius. Agree. Barrios money line. He shouldn't show any respect in the ring. Philip Murillo, you bring up a good point. Exactly, Phil. This is boxing. Before I go to bed, I just want to say I love your channel and community you've built. Congrats on the growth. Let's look into Discord. Okay, Dwayne, we appreciate you too, mate. You bring a good vibe to the channel too. That's what I'm putting bet on Barrios and stoppage. Put Pack in a body bag. PJ, you wild. Younger fighter, his legs. Yeah, so I'm going to go over real quick a prop. I don't know if you guys, I want to hear your opinion on something. I already talked about all week. One of the knockdown prop bets I really like is the Dubois versus Usyk. Right now, it's giving me $1.44 on one knockdown. So if you want to, because the money line odds on Usyk are $1.27, right? I have Usyk on my 4-leg lock. The first parlay I put in this week was Usyk, Pacheco, Picasso, and Bam. That is the big hitter. I'm going to have to call it something because that's the first one we did this week when some of the boys, they're going to put 10K on it to win 6K. So that's when we had Usyk at $1.33. He's at $1.27 now. Pacheco, Picasso, and Bam. Right now, I think it's $1.61. But if that $1.27 right now on the money line for Usyk isn't enough squeeze for you, enough juice, I like the knockdown prop bet. So you could then remove the element of Usyk being upset and just watch the fight cheering for a knockdown. And if there's one knockdown, you're getting $1.44 either way. So that's I like kind of hedging bets that way as well. So I'm definitely I have some action on 0.5 or more knockdowns. So we just need one knockdown in the Usyk Dubois fight from either side. That's $1.44. The prop I've loved the entire week is Fierro versus Pitbull to go the distance. $1.55 for Pitbull and Fierro to go the distance. I don't see either guy getting stopped. I think it's going to be a fun fight, and getting $1.55 on just that fight is really great value. So now we're talking about if you want to piece those together for either fighter to be knocked down at 230. I'm getting See, I don't have that option. I like that though. And obviously, if you take Fierro he's a huge dog. For him to win by decision, those odds are insane. I'm just coming at it from a little bit more of a strategic approach. So Garcia's not cornering Bam? Shit, I forgot about that. Hold on. I know Bam's fight is in Texas. Garcia's cornering Fierro over Bam? You think that... I don't think it's a risky bet. I think that fight goes the distance. Same. All right, another prop I like is a knockdown prop bet in Seb Fundora versus Zoo. Eister. David, I've been busy. I haven't checked my Instagram today on the DMs, but I'll get back to you, Eister. What do you guys feel? There's a knockdown prop opening up on Seb and Tim. Either guy to be knocked down, $1.70. These are just options that if you're looking for one of these to add. I talked about this, Rod, on our first live stream. We talked about with Turkey and the Ring and Riyadh season released a press release earlier today stating that November card, I think it's either starting with that November card or after that November card, the pay-per-view model is abolished. They're going to, so you'll probably just have to pay a streaming fee. Another fight that did you post more locks yet for Saturday? Yeah, Vargas, I put 2. Carlos, in our insider group, I put 2. Pancho Villa, you have to join our group, Pancho. So go to the pinned comment and join our group, and you'll see the tickets. I like Diego Pacheco I have Pacheco on the money line on a parlay, guys. But I also think Diego is going to stop Macumbi. So when I'm telling you where my head's at on these options, I'm leaving you guys the freedom to kind of be an architect by design and pick and choose. And I know the guys who win consistently will do that. Exactly. Who is Macumbi beaten? Exactly. I think Diego is a guy at 168, 24 years old. I think, man, I really like the upside on Pacheco. $1.70 is So $1.70 means you put 100 on that bet, you get your money back. So you get the 100 back plus $70. Hopefully that made sense. Jacques Arzola, I appreciate you checking in. Yeah, I know. Jinru, this is how they do it in Australia. So even in my breakdown videos, I do my best to explain that when we do the segmented part of my stats on live videos. I show you the odds, and I use increments of 100. So $1.70, 100 on that gets you your money back plus $70. Now, that's good value. Because when you look at the money line, Pacheco to just beat McCumbee, it's $1.07, meaning on a straight up bet, 100 on Pacheco to just win gets you your money back plus $7. So I don't like betting that way. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. So then you want to try to maneuver your way into dissecting the matchup and finding sweetening up the odds with method of victories. And this is where the big timers make a lot of money. McCumbee was out of yeah. McCumbee, I mean, I'm not high on him, boys. You're welcome, General. I'm not high on McCumbee. We can't be high on every guy. I think it's a really tough matchup for Pacheco. He is very green. Let's check. Let's do a revised, guys. Let's do a revised lock. I'm gonna go over because when I put my locks up, certain fights weren't offered. Pacheco not worth the value. Yeah, but he got stopped against Plant, Carlos. Pacheco not worth the value. Well, that could work two ways though. People were high on Plant until recent, right? I think Pacheco learned a lot against Steven Nelson. I think fighting a veteran like Steven Nelson, an undefeated guy, a guy who comes from a good camp, getting tested late, like I said, we talked about it all week. If you go to Pacheco versus Steven Nelson and you don't want to watch the entire 12-round affair, just go to the 10th round. Watch from 10, 11, and 12 and see the questions Nelson was forcing Pacheco to answer. I gave Nelson 2 of those last 3 rounds, and Pacheco won. But I feel it's a great fight for him to take. I think a lot of those lessons with Pacheco are probably going to have to do with adjustments in where he chooses to turn it up and turn it on throughout a fight, as well as within a round. It doesn't get spoken about a lot, but in terms of strategy, think about a guy like Sandor Martin. I always bring him up because he's the best example of this. A guy who looks like he's winning almost every round. You could just use his fights against Teo, use his fight against Alberto Puello. It's like he's winning the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds of a round, and then for some reason or whatever, the last 15 to 30 seconds in close rounds, Sandor Martin just kind of, I don't want to use the word allow. He kind of takes his foot off the gas. And so I think what Pacheco was doing against Steven Nelson, when he watches that tape, he was doing some of that in the later rounds. So a lot of it, it could be a simple adjustment of his cardio, his engine. Punch placement's always a thing. Some guys fall in love with headhunting. So the more you stick on the channel, and we go to our fights last night, and my buddy's like, Johnny, you love body punchers. Like, I love body punchers. If you ever spar with me, you better be ready to get hit to the body. Because I was raised, the gym I grew up in, and how my dad introduced boxing to me. My dad raised me to be more proud to knock somebody out to the body than to the head. So even like as a kid, I didn't grow until I was 16. So I was a competitive athlete from the time I was 7. So I was playing 4 sports year round from the time I was 7. And I was always the smallest dude. So with that comes, you're getting in a lot of, fights. It was normal. Nothing with weapons, just fights. And I would box. And mate, I would always drop dudes to the body when we're like 9 years old. You go to the ribs, you go to the core, you go to the liver, solar plexus. So my point is, now where I'm at in my life, I love body punchers. And, I think that a lot of guys in this era, body punching is kind of a lost art. I don't know if it has to do with coaching. And so when I see a body puncher like Virgil or Bam, or a lot of guys who come out of Robert Garcia's camp, they invest in the body. I'm a fan. You know what I mean? I think I was watching the fights last night in Sydney, and mate, there was a guy who was fighting Clay Waterman. Clay Waterman, mate, if you watch him fight, I really didn't know much about him. All the skills in the world. You want to talk about a guy who has so many gifts athletically, and then watching him fight, he's a guy whose opponent wore a tradie outfit in the walk-in. His opponent was a Kiwi, tough as nails. I didn't expect him to be that tough. But Clay Waterman, all the reflex fighter, smooth angles, speed on his punches. It's just that he wasn't investing into the body. He was headhunting. And when you headhunt, guys could take headshots way more, in my opinion, than a body rip. You break the body down, then go to the head. So I think with Diego Pacheco, I expect him to add a little bit more of that against Macumbi. And I could see definitely a stoppage in that fight based on how brave Macumbi likes to fight. You know what I mean? Styles. You know, you think you're going on a guy who you're leaning on the guy who's younger, who has, you know, the fresher energy, the more upside, who's fighting an older kind of veteran who's brave. I think that's tailor-made for a stoppage. So we'll see if that comes in fruition. Yeah, I like Sorenko, man. I was watching the tape on Sorenko versus Dackers. I think if you want to add Sorenko to a money line bet, parlay, I don't mind that. I haven't yet. Daniel Lappin, those odds, I think he's going to be too much for Edmondson. Macumbi's going to be. I think so too, Julius. It's a tough fight. When people talk about cashing out, when people talk about fighters cashing out, I mean, you're looking at a guy like Macumbi who had an undefeated record, couldn't get any big fights. I think he got suspended before. He was, you know, went a couple years without a fight. He gets his huge fight against Plant. The one fight that if he would have won would have propelled him, I think he's in his mid-30s now, to the next level, and he gets stopped. But he showed grit. So then he gets offered Pacheco, a young savage. This is kind of a good example of, you know, I don't want to say cashing out, but it's a tough fight for Macumbi to take after he just got stopped. So you make what you want of it. The one thing you can know is Macumbi's going to definitely be there to get hit. He's going to fight brave. That's why he got the fight. He's not going to fight off his back foot. He's not going to be. I'd like to see the rings, you know, what that ring is going to be as well, because, you know, Diego's a big boy. He's a fun guy to watch. Lawrence Okoli versus Kevin Lorena. I know some of you guys, I'm not betting on that fight. Usyk Dubois, you know how I feel. I scored at 116, 112 Puello. I had Puello winning 2 rounds. And I don't want to beat a dead horse simply because you guys know that I picked Puello to win. I don't want it to sound like I'm salty about the loss. I see why they gave it to Matias. I thought Matias faded. I thought it was evident that Matias faded late. Like I was real comfortable, not even nervous going into the scorecards. I thought, all right, Puello's keeping his belt. He did enough. And to see where the judges gave it to Matias, if you're if you're Alberto Puello himself, man, you know he's thinking like, what the hell? Because he's won closer fights than that before as of late. You know what I mean? He's won on this is how he wins fights. He's, you know, going into the Matias fight, he's a guy who traditionally wins close decisions. Some guys traditionally lose close decisions. Some guys win them. Puello was a guy who won them, and I was like, surely that's exactly what's going to happen. And they gave it to Matias. I thought Matias, the optic of Matias's, what he looks like, you know, his brand of boxing, if you take a guy's brand of boxing and what his brand looks like at the beginning of a fight versus what the brand looks like at the end of a fight, that's part of how you judge a fight, especially if it's razor close. And I felt of Puello's brand of boxing at the end versus Matias's brand, I thought Matias's brand of boxing is the one that was fading. So I'm not sure what the judges are looking at. None of us do. You know what I'm saying? Like last night, one of the judges scored Sonny Bill 77-74. That was embarrassing. That whoever scored 77-74 for Sonny should be ashamed. He won the first 2, and that was it. He even lost a point in the 4th He won the first 2 rounds. That was it. Maybe you could have given him the 4th, super close. Lost the 3rd. In the 5th, he lost to 10-8. Loses 6, 7, and 8. And so one of the judges said 77, 74. I'm like, God damn, this is a fix. The fix is in. And luckily we didn't get, because that would have been my 3rd really close decision that I would have lost in a week. I would have been salty about that. Paleo fought better than Liam. I agree, GK. I agree. I said that afterwards. What's up, Sal? I said that afterwards about how Paleo looked against Matias versus how Liam looked. Liam got touched a lot against Matias. Pero got touched up a lot. I don't understand what they're thinking. If the corruption, because one of the boys on the chat said they were, no matter what, they're giving it Matias based on what the promotion wants, how to market him. Then if that were the case, how do you explain giving a close decision to an Australian in Matias's homeland? I don't understand how you could reconcile that argument if you believe the other one that no matter what Paleo was going to do, they were going to give it to Matias. Because then you would say, he's the champ. How do you take the champ's belt from him? Banned by 8th round. We're getting specific, Mark. I like your style. Specificity. That's the difference between a plan of attack and confusion. It's one of my quotes. I like it. 8th round. Right on the dot. You got to love Bam Rodriguez. There's so much to talk about. In my breakdown, I had to make sure I wasn't giving him too much credit. You know what I'm saying? Puerto Ricans. There's a lot of Dominicans in the crowd, though. Brother, I just tried to enroll, and it doesn't appear to accept Apple. It accepts Apple Pay. Yeah, try again with a different card, Rod. And we'll figure something out, brother. We'll figure something out. Paleo couldn't keep Matias off him until round 10. You don't think Pero was getting touched up? So okay. I watched I was shocked that I thought the Liam Pero fight was real close. I thought it was real close. I'm hot. Liam Pero is a great boxer. Hell of a boxer. You did. Koki, you did. Koki said that. Paleo versus Pero. I want to see Liam Pero versus GAR. I want to see Liam Pero versus Hitchens. I want to see Hitchens versus GAR. 140, very top heavy. Very fun division. Seb said one. I think it was Turkey, Tom and Jerry. Don't listen to Turkey, boys. Skeezy, okay. So we watched the same fight. Yeah, Pero. I thought Pero was in more compromised situations against Matias than Paleo was, if you want to put it that way. You know what I mean? When we're trying to weigh in close decisions, then you have to mention that. Actually, Matias was the one initiating the glitches. He didn't like the work Paleo was giving one of these. Paleo's an underrated inside fighter. Paleo, man, there's a lot to like about Paleo. I don't know. I like his style. I like how he's willing. He could fight at different distances. He could fight at range. He could fight in. He's a boxer. He's a fighter. If only he had a little bit more pop. He could crack a bit, but he's one of those guys. There's certain fighters that come around that have a lot of things, but if he just had that one extra thing, like how Tito could crack. One of my all-time, favorite guys to watch. Trinidad. I think when you have that sort of power, you're kind of just born with it. Yeah, he fights the best. Yeah, the whole division, guys, 140 is great. Okay. YP is faded out. Skeezy, that's it. Skeezy, that's exactly what I was looking at. What Skeezy just said there about what the optic of how that fight looked, that's exactly what I saw. I was at the fight. He couldn't get inside without shoving, clinching every time he came in. Paleo connected. Punchers are not born. Punchers are born. Yeah, that you could develop technique, you could develop strength, you could do all that, but there's certain guys who just are born with that certain pop. And there's no point of thinking about it, but Pueyo's a guy that, for me, with everything that he does well, imagine if he had that. Imagine if he could crack like Trinidad. I personally thought Pueyo won Matias team. Okay, DJ. So we saw this. That's all I was saying. And for them to give Matias that decision, they must have gave him a lot of early rounds. What's up, Peters? I was impressed with Matias' conditioning. No, Matias' style is very admirable. I'm not, just because I don't think Matias won, I'm not shading him. He's obviously instant entertainment. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. He has a very brave, admirable style. Everybody is on the edge of the seat. We know what he wants to do. You know what I mean? He doesn't hide anything. And there's guys who have specific styles. He has a very specific style in his own way. Zepeda, very specific style in his own way. You know what you're going to get with a Zepeda. You know what you're going to get with a Matias. It's just that, can you game plan for those styles? How does your style match up with that style? That's why boxing is insane. It's like, you know what's wild? We have just our hands and gloves. With that being said, you have all these styles. It's insane. I love it. I'm such a nerd about it, dude. It's insane. Headbutts, there's 7-minute video. What am I missing, boys? Koki's saying headbutts happen. There's a 7-minute video. Pueyo headbutting. He had 84 headbutts. Okay, but Koki, what are we calling headbutts, though? Gary came off to a big lead. And GK, and that's what I was saying in my breakdown. It's how Pueyo fights. It's how Pueyo, he kind of cooks his way into a fight. And before you know it, he's in the fight and you're in his style. Yeah, it's easy, 100%. Before you know it, fighting Alberto Pueyo, you think you're up, and then by the mid-rounds, you're fighting at his tempo, you're fighting at his range, he's depicting where the fight's taking place, and not many people could deal with that. GAR drowned. GAR drowned late, and I'm a big Gary Antoine Russell fan. He didn't get... Nick Clark, I heard you mention you're not a huge D. Poirier fan. Yeah. I mean, my whole thing comes down to, I've watched Dustin since he was in the WEC. I'm old. I've watched Dustin's entire career. My thing just really comes down, my thing really just comes down to ethics. Sort of like, just do your own research on, especially when he was younger in the gym, sparring certain guys, how he sort of would treat sparring partners, and I'm not for that tough guy bully bullshit sort of thing. I come at it from more of like I expect the guys that I'm going to cheer for, I expect them to act a specific way, but that's just me. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. I don't want to get too personal with it. You can do your own research. Do your own research. Yeah. Matias landed 100. He's not a guy that I cheer for. Check it out, Nick. Yeah, all good. And there's no shit. He's adored his style, what he's meant for the sport of MMA. He's a Hall of Famer. All that does not change. I was just speaking about, certain ethics that I'm not gonna, kind of like TJ Dillashaw. TJ, we know unfortunately his career ended with a huge stain on it, getting popping. And then, but when world champion TJ, when TJ was cooking, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. There's nothing that anyone could say about Dillashaw. They called him Killashaw for a reason. But do your research about him, how he would train and how he would treat his sparring partners. Find out what happened to the kid at Alpha Male. One of the reasons he left, when he left with Bang Ludwig. Bang Ludwig was a world-class kickboxer. And he was the striking coach at Alpha Male. And there was, I'm sure you guys know. If you don't know, just Google it. He didn't used to train with Loma. They sparred together a couple times. It's not like he was training partners with him, just to clarify. But there was an up-and-comer. And, no, it wasn't Northcutt. No, he pretty much, he ended his career. Yeah, injured one of the best of it. Yeah, that's exactly right, Chris. So that's what I mean. These are wild boys, though. These are wild boys. You know, the guys in MMA that I always would gravitate around is like how George St. Pierre was a guy, not necessarily, I didn't necessarily like St. Pierre's style in the octagon because I'm a striker first. I'm not a big grappling heavy style. I like guys who could strike. I like guys who can defend the takedown and don't look to smother you. What's up, high interest? Appreciate you, brother. But the thing I really admired about GSP is his discipline, his training, how he approached fighting. For the longest time, they thought that his nickname was Rush. They call him George Rush St. Pierre. But growing up in Montreal, Rob Rivas, man, I appreciate you, brother. He got bullied a lot. And, when I was a kid, I used to get bullied a lot. And hearing St. Pierre tell this story, guys, there's an awesome documentary in 2008. It was about, God damn, what was his name? There was a kickboxer out of Montreal, out of TriStar, and they were filming the documentary about him. He was the next breakthrough fighter coming out of Canada. He was headlining UFC events, and in that documentary, you see GSP there. Holdsworth, that was him. That was him. You see GSP in this documentary, and the documentary goes on to show that the feature athlete, his name's slipping my mind. I don't want to use the Google. I'll see if it comes to me. Every time he would get big fights, he would lose. He couldn't perform at the highest level. He mentored GSP, and GSP saw this, and this is where you started seeing him for the first time. And George St. Pierre said, people call me Rush, but my nickname's actually No Rush. George No Rush St. Pierre. He would be in a fight and figure you out and break you mentally and not rush it and kind of play with his food until he chose to take you out. What's up, Rod Rivas? So anyway, look into it if you want. Beast. St. Pierre was an animal, always in shape. Took care of himself. I like all athletes. I like athletes who kind of. We all are attracted to what we're attracted to, whether it's women, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's fighters. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Dustin was like TJ. Just, dude, he doesn't have. Yeah. It's crazy. What I'm saying is, watching Poirier's entire career, I'm actually impressed that he was able to turn the opinion of him around. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't always UFC fans liked him. I remember the days where people weren't high on Poirier because of this. When he fought I've been watching him, like I said, since the 145 days. When he was fighting 145 in the WEC, and the WEC got bought out, came to the UFC, watch him at 45. And there was a time where he was like a run-of-the-mill average guy, a fighter. He'd win one, lose one. He got stopped against Conor at 45. And something happened where I don't know if he got married. I don't know if it was the optic that, he was being how he was marketed. And he flipped it, which is kudos to him, man. And I'm not saying that he's a bad person either. I'm just saying I'm not a Dustin Poirier fan. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I hope Max, I think Max is going to beat him. And I've been watching Max since he was 19. I think Max made his debut as a teenager, maybe 20 in the UFC. Max fought Conor. Max fought Will Chope in the UFC. We talked about Will Chope just had a boxing match in Turkey. Will Chope's a guy who's like 37. He's like 100 combat fights. I think he was the tallest. I think Chope was a 6'4", 135 or 145er. Yeah, he was 20. So watching Max do what he does, how Max has always gone about his business the way he goes about his business. I just don't like bullies. I think that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like guys who, yeah, I'm this dude sort of, that just doesn't resonate with me. So that's something that's always bothered me with Poirier too. Or when Michael Johnson knocked out Poirier. He got knocked out on my birthday. Are you talking Maxie against Ilya? Yeah, it's. What do you guys make of the UFC at the moment, man? What's up, boxing fan in the house? My boy checking in. New York. That's New York, right? From the accent, it definitely sounds like New York. By now, 40 minutes into the chat, we're talking about My point was with the UFC, it seems like it's not. I think the UFC is a victim of its own activity. I think there's too many events in the UFC. I think it's kind of like Dana has built it in such a into such a machine, a marketed mainstream machine, that he no longer has to worry about marketing it and promoting it like he used to. He no longer needs Ronda Rousey's. He no longer needs Anderson Silva's or Conor McGregor's. That it's kind of watered down the product a bit. Well, the reason the fights take place, Jay, is because there's a lot of parity in MMA. The way you move a fighter in boxing versus MMA is way different. The best, and you have to move them slower in boxing. I know the mainstream fan base wants young fighters to progress quickly. So when you guys are always talking about Carmel Moten or Abdullah Mason, even Schofield, he's only 22. I'm always like, slow it. It's important that these guys move in a specific. All we have to do is learn lessons of what happened with Wilfredo Benitez. And I think he was a world champion as a 17-year-old, and just one of the greatest of his era. But boxing, there's levels for a reason. Look what the UFC did to Yair Rodriguez's career. Granted, Rodriguez is still a world-class guy. Yair's one of my favorite fighters. Beautiful striking style. Comes out of Mexico. When Yair was 21 or 22, he already had the entire country of Mexico on his back. He was already heralded going to be navigating him properly as becoming a world champion. And Dana White, to this day, one of the puts Yair up against a two-division savage in Frankie Edgar. Edgar had already been a champion, two-division champion. Frankie Edgar, his style was like a blender, a wrestling heavy, grappling heavy, the opposite style. I think he was 32 at the time. The total opposite style you would want to put in front of a 21-year-old, really exciting, talented, green MMA UFC fighter. And Dana does that. And Yair got the shit beaten out of him. And, I think didn't fight for 2 years, had some contract disputes. And, in my opinion, and he's still, I just think Yair could have been way more. And I felt like he lost some of his prime in one fight. Sometimes you lose things in one fight. You're never the same. Think about what they did to Rory. God damn it. That's another one that pisses me off. Rory, when he was coming out of TriStar and Firas Zahabi, all the boys were saying Rory was better than George St. Pierre. Rory started fighting in the UFC as a 20-year-old. A 20-year-old. Rory was the example of the new breed of MMA fighter. The era that when they used to just be specialists, when this guy could grapple, this guy could do jiu-jitsu, this guy could strike. Rory was that generation where they were training everything from day one. And so McDonald was Firas Zahabi's golden child. He was the protege of George St. Pierre. And they freaking give him Robbie Lawler. I'm like, and Lawler's to this day, my favorite. And when people ask me, my favorite MMA fighter of all time, in no specific order, there's two of them, Wanderlei Silva and Robbie Lawler. And then if you want to learn anything about those are my two favorite MMA fighters. And George St. Pierre is up there too for different reasons. But Robbie Lawler is a goddamn nightmare for anybody. And you saw how those fights played out. They were wars. They were close. They were competitive. They could have gone either way. But you don't come back from a beatdown like that. And Rory wasn't able to. You know what I mean? And then he kind of fizzled out in the PFL. That was another career. To think that Roy McDonald never became a world champion in the UFC is insane to me. You look at his height, his reach, his size, his physical attributes, his fight IQ, all of it is insane. So that's another example why boxing is different from MMA. There's a lot of, they move the fighters in boxing, you have to move them carefully. You have to move boxers carefully. So don't always be in such a rush with guys. Yeah, but it was so much more damaging though, Mar. There was a lot of blood, but it was so much more brutal. It was so much more brutal. Because you take the cut away from Tim, there's no blood. Seb has kind of a cracked nose. Even when Tim got washed up, he didn't have swollen eyes. It wasn't. You weren't looking like a. It wasn't looking like a. Like an old Chico Corrales fight, or like one of the Erickson Lubin versus Fundora. You know what I'm saying? It was just a big cut. But you watch McDonald versus Lawler 1, mate, that was a brutal, brutal fight, dude. You know who also is one of my all-time favorites is Carlos Condit. So the natural-born killer out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Carlos Condit, dude, when Carlos was cooking. Carlos was a WEC world champion. He was a world champion in WEC and was an interim champion in the UFC. No one talks about Carlos Condit. No, Matt Brown, the Immortal. That was probably my favorite era, to be honest with you, especially at 170 pounds. 170 pounds in like the 2013s, you had Matt Brown, you had Carlos Condit, you had Robbie Lawler, you had Rory McDonald, Nick Diaz. How could you forget it? Dude, how could you? One of the greatest knockouts of all time in boxing or combat sports. I think it was 2003, 2004. A 21-year-old Nick Diaz is fighting a 20-year-old Robbie Lawler. The ages might have been reversed. Robbie might have been 21. Nick might have been 20. And they're just talking trash. And one punch knockout right in the middle of the octagon. Nick Diaz, dude. Insane. One of my all-time favorite moments. Or when Nick Diaz fought, when Nick Diaz was fighting in the Pride. And he was fighting the Fireball Kid, the Japanese world champion. And he submitted him. Dude, this kid had never been... his name's slipping my mind. It'll come to me. Never been submitted. Yeah, Gomi. Absolute Japanese superstar. And this kid from Stockton submits him. It was insane, dude. Nick Diaz is a goddamn... Yeah, talking to Origomi. Nick Diaz is... And then you see a young 15-year-old Nate, kind of like Nick's little brother. And Nate's coming of... And we all knew about Nate the entire time. Nick's coming of age was when he beat Michael Johnson, I think in 2014 and 2015. We already knew Nate was a dog, but he kind of had ups and downs, didn't have really a smooth consistency with his career. And then it was when he beat Michael Johnson, I took him as a 4-1 dog, and then he called out Conor McGregor. And I was like, holy shit, finally. And I was like, this is where Nate's going to go from Nick's little brother to Nate Diaz. And, the first Conor fight, man, those were legendary performances. I shared a clip of Conor McGregor on my Insta yesterday, in 2015. I don't think people remember how invincible Josie Aldo was. The aura Josie Aldo had before the Conor McGregor fight. So at a time in the WEC, so this was before the UFC had smaller weight divisions. And the WEC had, I think it was 155 and below. It might have been 145 and below. And these guys were like, Uriah Faber, Josie Aldo, Renan Barão, Dustin Poirier. I'm missing a lot of names. Dominic Cruz. And Aldo was known for starching people. His leg kicks. Early on in his career, he was known for his leg kicks. And then the older he got, he stopped kicking for some reason. And watching him beat up I was a huge California Kid guy. I was a huge Uriah Faber fan at this time of the era. And watching Aldo just handle Faber that way. And his hand speed and his boxing. And seeing Conor McGregor do that to Aldo, having called it out. He gave an interview with Robin Black. If you guys don't follow him on Insta, he's a buddy of mine. Follow him. Robin Black Martial Arts. He does a lot of commentary. He's a former MMA fighter. And leading up before McGregor versus Aldo, Robin interviews him and asks him how that fight is going to play out. And Conor says it exactly. He said, well, when I faced off with Josie, I was watching his right hand twitch. And he was like, that's a tell. He was like, he's going to want to throw that right hand. And he was like, when I fight people, they do one of two things. They either cower away or they get really aggressive. Either way, they're in trouble because I'm going to exit and create a void, a blank space. And that's when I'm going to unleash my lead hook. And he called it to a T. Josie gets aggressive on his front foot, swings and misses. Conor slide back, boom, counter. God damn. Amazing, dude. Amazing. And watching that before Conor fought Floyd. Yeah, me too. Dude, I'm a huge El Kukui fan. El Kukui tears his ACL on a goddamn microphone cord on stage. That fight was supposed to be scheduled, what, 4 or 5 times? I thought Nurmagomedov lost to Massaranduba. You know, I thought in Nurmagomedov's first fight, I thought he lost. I think he was fighting Massaranduba, and they gave him a close decision. And Michael Johnson had Nurmagomedov clipped. Dude, Al Iaquinta fought Nurmagomedov on 4 days' notice and took him the distance. Al Iaquinta, man, you know, that wrestling style, that American Greco style Iaquinta had, gave a lot of trouble to Nurmagomedov on short, and it showed you the importance of having a fight camp. It showed you why having a fight camp is really important for specific styles, because Khabib took that fight on short notice, and Al, you know, he didn't win the fight. It went 5 rounds. It was, a lot of people were shocked that that fight even went 5 rounds. Guys, I know. I could go both, GOAT. It's insane. If you guys want to talk MMA, guys, I do have to run though, man. I have a lot to do. I have some clients downstairs. I posted in our group, you boxing insiders, the boys with the blue stars. You have 3 parlays in that group right now. I'm going to give you one more tomorrow night. We have a lot to cover. I'm doing my breakdown. I'm going to break down, I think, Pacheco and Macumbi, and I'm going to upload that as well. And I got 2 lives coming tomorrow. I appreciate all you. Sakurai, you sent me the, I got to get to it. Guys, if you're one of many who've emailed me and I haven't got back to you yet, I know there's some strength programs in there. There's some footage in there. Just give me time. I get pulled in a lot of directions, not just from here, but what I do, you know, in my one-on-one coaching too. So just be patient with me. I'll get to you. I haven't forgotten about you. Like this video, hit subscribe, stay tuned to the channel.